Not only did I have to make a video on the Phibz situation, not once, not twice, but thrice. I made 3 videos. I made videos with research, clear perspectives, just for me missing the point. So instead of rewriting the scripts, I have to get rid of some points I made. And this time, I had to do research on something I missed or misunderstood. So, we're good, guys. We're good. Before I start the video, I just want you to know to not send harassment towards anyone that I mention, because harassment will not be condoned. This is just me criticizing the situation and how confusing it is. So, yeah, please do not take this the wrong way. Keep this in mind that I won't get everything right, as the situation is very confusing as hell and there's a lot of misinformation right in there. But you're always allowed to correct me if I get anything wrong or point out the mistakes I made, just as long as you're not being an asshole about it.
Warning, the following of the video is for mature audiences. The video may mention self-harm, implied grooming, predatory behavior, and ableism. Viewers' discretion is advised.
The Phibz situation has become a mess, and it's not just because of how misleading it is, but because of how confusing it is. For example, calling Phibz a pedophile without any evidence provided, or sexualizing self. Not only giving out false claims about what Phibz did, but also accusing them of something they're not. So, with that in the way, let's do a quick speed run on the debunk segment on what Phibz did, which are later on proven to be false claims. Phibz in the screenshot was romanticizing self, not sexualizing. The difference is that Phibz was being extremely inappropriate towards these kids. In another screenshot where Phibz was allegedly 17 when talking to Sonia, who was 14. However, this was later on debunked if you look at the date, as this was taken in June 2024 and Phibz would have been 16 at the time before they could turn 17. So no, Phibz is not a pedophile in this one. In another screenshot where Phibz would be seen defending Zayn for something they did in the past, which was having CSAM, to which this was later on debunked. Zayn would confirm that they would instead draw NSFW of anime characters which are canonically children when they were 13 years old. Now, the reason why I would say CSAM instead of CP was mainly because I thought Zayn had downloaded illegal material in their device, but apparently not. Now that that's over with, let's move on to the unconfirmed segment here. Ones that cannot be solved if there was more evidence to back up. Phibz is mixed between African American and Hispanic. Many people would get suspicious of Phibz's claim, and this was mainly because they didn't look African American, and because of Phibz saying the N-word, a lot of people suspect that this was just Phibz being racist. Although I'm not black, but I will definitely confirm that even if you're mixed, it's best to keep it to yourself. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, let me know on what you think about this as someone who's black. In another screenshot where Phibz would be interacting with a 14-year-old when they were 18. In the beginning, the 14-year-old would troll Phibz by using a copy and paste message with a fake confession. Although I have one opinion to state, it's not funny to troll people, especially with messages like this. But Phibz taking this seriously to the point where they acknowledge the minor's age is creepy, and it starts to foreshadow something, which you'll have to find out yourself. Now that you know what was confirmed and unconfirmed in both segments, let's move on to the recent claims that was made about Phibz. While Phibz was dealing with harassment, they were in contact with Vance, Bella, and other minors in a group chat. They'd go on voice calls and do role plays together. Nothing bad as far as I know, adults being friends with kids isn't really new. However, Phibz was in contact with Vance for 3 days. Phibz was the only adult in this group while the others were 17 and younger. There's really no sexual context between Phibz and the other minors, but I can confirm that their behavior was predatory-like. Have you guys ever heard of role-playing, or at least role-playing in character? If so, would you rather do a slow burn roleplay with a 16-year-old? The answer would be no, because not only is it weird to do a slow burn roleplay with a minor, but you'll realize that the term slow burn is meant to develop romance. That is pretty predatory if you think about it. During the interview with Gideon, Phibz would try denying that the roleplay was meant to be light romance when it was more than that. Whether it was supposed to be light or not, that doesn't excuse your predatory behavior, Phibz. That's concerning how you brushed it off as some non-issue. And I know what your answer is, having zero sexual intentions. Yet you partake on doing the slow burn roleplay with the 16-year-old while being 19. Overall, that was just a weird thing to do. I'm not sure if they ever continued the roleplay, but since they didn't, I'm glad it didn't happen. But we're not done with this segment because apparently there's more, and this includes Vance's experience with Phibz. Vance and Phibz started off as friends, talking about their interests, just typical mutual stuff. But during the time when Vance and Phibz were in a group to talk about fandom stuff, fans showed off proof of being in calls with Phibz either to roleplay, to talk, or just livestream playing Doki Doki Literal Club. Vance told the group chat about his unionship with a fictional character named Virgil, and after Vance confirmed it, Phibz will come out responding that they kin this character and how it was a coincidence for them to like this character. At first, it kind of seems a little silly when the two like the same character, but it gets suspicious the moment Phibz mentioned it, to which they have continued to be a Virgo kin while talking to Vance, even making a cosplay of the character to show it off to the group. It gets weirder the more you see Phibz getting closer to Vance, as if they were becoming clingy. The friendship continued on, with Vance being comforted by Phibz whenever they were talking about their personal issues. Now, I don't know the full context as to what Vance was talking about, but considering this was a vent, I would say that they were going through something, to which Phibz would comfort Vance, even going out their way to send photos of themselves and send it to Vance. And speaking of personal issues, let's try talking about it. Vance would talk to Phibz about their personal experience. This involves self-harm and how they want it over their hoodie. Phibz would respond with ooh as a way to express no words. The same conversation happened, but with Vance admitting to rubbing weed on his scars at 12, while Phibz responded with the same reply. Later on, the screenshot was brought up again between Phibz and Bludspeth, which you'll hear later on. They seemed to brush it off and blame Vance for making them uncomfortable. Which it seems ironic for Phibz to say that when they also did the same thing in their old server where they actively romanticized self-harm and wanted to be encouraged to hurt themselves. But I will give Phibz a fair point on them being uncomfortable. But their response to this was shitty, and they should have said no. To which, if you are truly uncomfortable, you have to put boundaries. No matter how shitty you are, I believe you should learn not to engage with topics that makes you uncomfortable. For Vance too, because yeah, they are mentally ill. And I will say this in the nicest way possible, but you shouldn't be opening up to anyone you just met, whether it's 3 days ago or a week ago, because you don't know them. I believe in both sides had their fuck-ups, but I hope they learned their lessons by not repeating the same mistakes again, but to respect each other's boundaries. Though in my opinion, Vance's experience should have been kept private because this was pretty much personal for them. Now for the grooming part, because Vance would accuse Phibz of grooming them, while Phibbz's wordings can come off wrong. And while I do think Phibbz's wordings can come off predatory, but I have questions. Was there any attentions Phibz had over Vance, or did they attempt to isolate them? While there is a lot of evidence to clear what Phibz was doing was predatory-like, but as far as I know, Phibz being a kin of Vance's favorite character and being close to them is up to the debate. Personally, what I think Phibz did was predatory. But does that make Phibz a groomer? No, I generally don't think so, because there isn't really enough evidence to prove Phibz actually groomed Vance, even if there's no sexual intentions, or having the capability to manipulate or isolate a child. I generally think Vance was uncomfortable having Phibz around. But it doesn't mean I'm dismissing Vance's experience, because having a 19-year-old cling onto you and being your favorite character's kin, it is weird enough, but also just creepy in general. But personally, it's never good to accuse Phibz of something they're not, because assumptions like this is life-ruining, and there's no doubt in brushing it off as a non-issue. So even if you want us to believe Phibz is a groomer, let's not forget not only was your group chat had been shit talking about Phibz, but also mentioning letting them groom one of you isn't helping your case whatsoever. No matter how much I try to repeat it, even if you are a victim of said grooming, I still think it's not an excuse to joke about things even when you know better than that. Overall, the situation between Phibz, Bella, and Vance was difficult to handle because it is confusing to find out the evidence, but also a easy way to connect on what's going on so far, even if there's no context. Before I move on to the debate segment, I forgot one thing, which was the autism excuse, to which Phibz would acknowledge their autism, but however using it to hang out with younger teenagers rather than the adults. I won't deny it has happened with most autistic adults, but you shouldn't use autism to hang out with kids. Is reasonable, yes, especially being used to having friends at high school, but then again, it's shitty. And that's even having history of being inappropriate to minors. Like I said, adults being friends with minors isn't new because it's the non-issue as long it isn't sexual. In this case, Phibz shouldn't be in online spaces with minors, but instead put boundaries like age limits. It may sound harsh, but it is for Phibbz's sake. Now, this next debate might get you messy because we're playing Bendy. Just kidding, no. Because this segment includes Bludspeth, Pouboy, and Denki, and I guess Gideon too. For those who don't know what was going on in this situation, Bludspeth and Pouboy would make videos on Phibz, whether having their thumbnails and titles as Predator or Pedo. After Gideon made a live stream interview with Phibz, Pouboy would go out of their way to make a video on the situation, and he went out of his way to call Gideon and Denki itty papa gut idiots for defending Phibz. However, that backfired when Denki reacted to the video, leaving Bludspeth to make a community tab about how Denki was a quote-unquote narcissistic crybaby. Before I continue on, I didn't know what narcissist or what narcissistic meant, so even after being informed this was also counted as ableism, that is extremely fucked up for Bludspeth to do, as well as my part too. So it is funny how Bludspeth was confident enough to call Denki arrogant when he himself was arrogant, but also a hypocrite at best. What I mean by it was that Denki handled the situation pretty well while Bludspeth was going in circles. And after the debate ended, Bludspeth would start stroking his ego by claiming he won the debate when he didn't. It doesn't get worse, folks, because this man will call Denki in his live chat Yeah, you heard me correctly.
It's cringe. Like, if you can't... Yeah, no, Denki's chat is a cult. They're fucking...
retards, like all of them.
That...
I'm not sure if Bludspeth is autistic, so if he is, you should know better than to call anyone a slur. Not only it makes you immature, but it comes to the realization you're not fit to do commentary videos. To which I'm sorry, if you cannot handle on being the wrong here, I think there's something off with you. What's really funny is that not only is he a huge hypocrite for saying 18 to 19 is an adult, but he starts complaining about Denki treating him like an adult because he's only 18. Like, fucking pick a side, dude.
Thank you for the super excavated skull. Felt like the lion yelling at the monkey pig. It literally was. Like, how's this grown-ass adult man screaming his head off at an 18-year-old? By the way, cringe.
The fact that we're both 18, it makes me feel embarrassed to be around your age, bro. And you also sound insecure when you were complaining about Denki and the situation and how you think you won. It literally just sounds like you're just insecure and just can't accept that you're in the wrong. Like, it's not that serious, buddy. Of course, I did mention Pouboy in this, but I like to say his claims aren't that good, but also not bad. I may disagree with him time after time, but also has good potential in making commentary videos other than locale content. And same with Bludspeth, because despite his recent success is becoming sloppy, but he also puts out good research in his videos, and being the first person to expose Nova Online and Tofiachu. But I am disappointed that he became an asshole, because he was interesting to watch and learn about what he covers. This debate was just a mess, and it was just a nothing burger in general. This was literally me expressing how I feel about the situation, but also because of how mishandled it was. In conclusion, the Phibz situation is just a mess. There's nothing you can do other than watch other videos that goes over the Phibz situation, but they aren't exactly the same as mine. But if this video helped you learn a bit about the Phibz situation, then I'm glad it helped because I wanted to make a video explaining about the situation. I highly recommend sharing this to a friend who may or may not be confused on the situation. I bet this would help them a lot, at least I hope it did. If you enjoyed my video, I highly recommend liking it before sharing your thoughts on the situation. But also, if you want to support me, you can subscribe to me. And if you want to know what I've been doing lately, you can check my bio. And this, my friends, will be the only video that I've made about Phibz. Nothing more, nothing less. Anyways, I hope you all have a good day and night, and I apologize for the late delay. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out!